Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. This town hall meeting is now called to order. Shall we stand for the singing of the national anthem?
O land of beauty, our country, where peace abound, thy children stand free. On the strength of will and love, with God in all our struggles, St. Kitts and Nevis be a nation bound together with a common destiny. As stalwarts we stand for justice and liberty, with wisdom and truth. We will serve and honor thee. No sword, no spear shall conquer, for God we sure defend. His blessings shall forever to posterity extend.
Thank you, Ashley. Remain standing for the prayer as we ask Jacqueline Morton to lead us in a word of prayer, please.
Let us pray. Most righteous and eternal Heavenly Father, we just come here, dear God, to look to you from whence cometh our help. All our help only come from your mighty God. So Heavenly Father, God, we pray, dear God, that thank you, dear God, for all that you have done for us and all that you're about to do. Father, God, we just want to give you thanks with a grateful heart, oh God. Tonight we just say thank you. Heavenly Father, God, we want to thank you for every head represented here tonight, oh God. Heavenly Father, God, we want to thank you, dear God, that you have provided. Even when there seems to be no way, oh God, you have made ways for us. And Father, for that, we just want to say thank you. Heavenly Father, God, we bring before you the Honorable Sean Richards, mighty God. Heavenly Father, God, we pray, dear God, for a special touch, dear God, from the crown of his head to the very sole of his feet, oh God. Heavenly Father, God, no matter what the enemy tries, oh God, Heavenly Father, God, we just want to give you thanks because he cannot prevail. Heavenly Father, God, continue to give him the wisdom and the understanding to lead the people aright. Heavenly Father, God, may he continue to call upon you in whatever ways, dear God. Even when they seem that there is no way out, oh God, may he look to you from whence cometh his help. Heavenly Father, God, bless the proceeding tonight. Father, God, may we agree to disagree or disagree to agree. But Heavenly Father, God, may we come to the conclusion, dear God. Heavenly Father, God, we come, dear God, to give you thanks for what you have done for us again. Father, God, we have the victory again and again, until you, dear God, decide. Heavenly Father, God, we truly just want to thank you. We truly want to praise you. We truly look to you, God. In everything that we do, you say give thanks. And Father, God, for tonight, we just want to give you thanks. We pray, dear God, for the hastening of those who are on the outside ready to come in, oh God. Heavenly Father, God, guide and protect, dear God, and after this meeting is over, Heavenly Father, God, may we give you thanks again, dear God, and carry us to our safe home safety. All these mercies we ask in no other name, but your precious and marvelous name. Amen.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Be seated, please. Good Good evening, one and all again. My name is Theodore Brown, and I'm pleased to be the chairperson for this evening proceedings. It is indeed a distinct honor and pleasure for me to chair this significant and educational town hall meeting dubbed Urban Development and Infrastructure. First, let me recognize and welcome the Honorable Sean Richards, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Public Infrastructure, Utilities, Post and Urban Development. Mr. Ron Boddy is the Acting Director of Urban Development. Let me welcome you, the good people of this beautiful town of Sandy Point. And as I look in the audience, I see the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education, Mr. William Vincent Hodge. Also, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of International Trade, Ms. Jasmine Weeks. So let me welcome one and all, and I hope that this evening's proceedings will be of some benefit to all of us. Words of congratulations to the Honorable Sean Richards once again for winning constituency number 5. And every time he contested the Sandy Point seat, the margin increased every time. So it speaks volume. It means that Sean is a very dedicated politician when it comes to constituency number 5. I also wish to recognize our technical crew, Open Interactive, Pro Video Production. Welcome. I also wish to recognize the subcommittee members on this town hall subcommittee who put this program together. It was chaired by Claudius Hardis Gums. Other members of the committee include Cindy Deming, Ralcia Glasgow, Tristan Gums, Jasmine Weeks, Candy Richards, Anthony Wilshire, Sean Crossley, and yours truly. This meeting is called specifically to give all the good people of constituency number 5, Sandy Point and Fig Tree, a voice in the future development of this beautiful constituency in particular and the country in general. Now you will be given 2 minutes at the end of the minister's presentation to ask your questions and give your comments in the first instance. I want to give as much people as possible a chance to ask their questions and to give his or her comments. At this point, let me pause and ask those persons at the back if you can come forward, please. There are lots of room inside. Now, many persons may ask, what is infrastructure? What is it? What is urban development? What is post? What is utilities? Public infrastructure is infrastructure owned or available for use by the public, presented by the government. It is distinguishable from generic or private infrastructure in terms of policy, finances, purpose, etc. Public infrastructure is a general term often qualified specifically as, but not limited to, transport infrastructure, rail transport, public capital, public works, water infrastructure, electricity. As the minister is responsible for posts that takes in the post office, and all of us know what the post office does, what are the elements surrounding the post office, the delivery of mails, etc. When we think of utilities, one thing comes to mind, that is electricity. So our minister is also responsible for SCELEC. Now, what is about to discuss here this evening would be of benefit to the entire Sandy Point community. And I would like as much persons as possible to hear your views, how you think this constituency can be developed, and how you think the country could be developed as well. So, I would now call on Raphael Weeks. He will introduce the Honorable Minister.
Yeah. Good evening, Sandy Pointers, guests. Permit me to adopt the protocol that has been established by those before me. I have been tasked to introduce our featured speaker. While you may agree with me that our featured speaker needs no introduction, I am certain that you will agree with me when I said we must give credit where credit is due. Our featured speaker has demonstrated love for his country, love for people, and a special love for his constituency in number 5. I speak of a man with vision and compassion. I speak of a man that gives of himself. I speak of a man with foresight and intellect, a born winner. With his new portfolio of Minister of Public Infrastructure, Posts, Utilities, and Urban Development, I know that he will embark on initiatives and programs to bring about a transformation never before envisaged. It is therefore, it is therefore incumbent on all of us here and those in the diaspora to continue to support our leader and share in his vision. When we share and we care, this will ensure that all of us in Sandy Point, as Sandy Pointers, attain the zenith of progress and prosperity. Our leader has demonstrated in the past 5 years his competence and dedication to his task. This time around, we must help in grooming him to be the next Prime Minister of this, our federation. This time around, we must remain steadfast and positive. This time around, we must remain loyal and patient. This time around, we must be the eyes and ears of our leader, because his success becomes our success. Tonight, the esteemed pleasure is mine to introduce our representative for number 5, the Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of Public Infrastructure, Posts, Utilities, and Urban Development, our next Prime Minister, the Honorable Sean K. Richards. Please help me welcome him.
Good evening to everyone. I add my own share of welcome to all of you present here this evening. Of course, I take the opportunity to recognize the presence of the Permanent Secretary for Education, Mr. William Hodge, the Permanent Secretary for Trade, Mrs. Jasmine Warner Weeks, Director of Sports, Mr. Anthony Wilshire, the Acting Director of Urban Development, Mr. Ron Body, and of course, to all of you, the wonderful people of the town of Sandy Point. Before I get into my main discourse here this evening, I must, however, say a very special thank you to all of you for your support on June 5th, 2020, Election Day. It was because of the tremendous support that you gave then that I was returned for the fourth time as the elected representative for this constituency. As a matter of fact, to date, the margin of victory on June 5th represents the largest margin of victory that any candidate has ever received in this constituency. It has been a historic victory. I only played a role in bringing about that victory. That victory is a testament to all of the people of Sandy Point who gave their support on election day, but in addition, a number of key persons who were intimately involved in the campaign. I therefore also take the opportunity to say thank you to the campaign manager, Ms. Cindy Demin Nayas, and I don't want to begin to call the names of the campaign workers because I'm certain that I would omit someone during the process. However, what I would say is that to all of the hard workers, to the wonderful team of persons who were involved in the campaign, thank you. We had leaders in the various polling divisions. You had Cindy in polling division 1, Dorita in polling division 2. We had Bobsy in polling division 3. We had Hardis in polling division number 4. We had Candy in polling division number 5. And you had myself leading polling division number 6. And we had, as I said, a number of different persons working with us, young persons, middle-aged persons, older persons, persons who just came together and made it happen. And even though some persons were not part of a team, these persons did their very own thing in terms of speaking to other persons one and one. On nomination day, we had Cindy and Dawn who moved my nomination. Thank you to those two individuals. Traditionally, it would have been Tracia and Dawn, but because the borders have been closed, Tracia wasn't able to be here this time around. But she and so many others would have done their own bit of campaigning using social media. So I also recognize all of those persons who would have taken to social media to be part of the campaign. To persons such as Delante and Giovanni, who took to the streets every single day, using the microphones, using the speakers, I say thank you to those persons also. To all of the election day workers, of course, the entire Sandy Point community extends its thanks to you because you ensured that we had a free and we had a fair election, and an election which was free from fear. In that respect, we must also extend our gratitude to the returning officer for the Sandy Point constituency, Mr. William Hodge, who ensured that the workers were in place, the workers were trained, and that things progressed very smoothly on election day. If by chance I have omitted any individual, let me say thank you to every single person that played a role on June 5th, 2020 and the events leading up to then. I will always appreciate your support, and I will always continue to work in the best interest of all of the people of this constituency. This evening, we are here for what is the first of a series of town hall meetings in the Sandy Point community, constituency number 5. As stated, and as most persons already should be aware of, I no longer have the pleasure of leading the Ministry of Education, Youth, Sport and Culture, but rather the Ministry of Public Infrastructure, Utilities, Post and Urban Development. Before I speak to that particular ministry, however, I say a thank you to all of the persons and all of the persons past and present in the ministry that I served in prior to. It was a ministry that allowed me to develop a ministry that I was able to make an impact upon the entire Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, and for that I will always be most grateful. When I became the minister for where I am now, I visited the Ministry of Education, and one gentleman who I will not name said to me, "I am staying at education, I am not coming with you." The good thing though is that I do believe that government is such that all ministries depend upon each other to do the work of the government. So that whether one is in the Ministry of Education or elsewhere, there is still that relationship and that dependence upon all of the other ministries. And so, as I said, my farewell to those ministries, I must say again to all of the persons there to continue to work in the best interests of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. And as the minister in this new ministry, I pledge my support to work with them. Now, new ministry, of course, new challenge, and a new learning experience. However, it is a challenge that I have accepted. It is a challenge that at the end of it, I will be able to look back and say that as the minister, I have left my legacy in that ministry. Similarly, I also expect the people of Sandy Point to be able to say that as the Minister of Public Infrastructure, Utilities, Posts and Urban Development, that as he performed in the previous ministry, he also performed in this ministry on our behalf. I will not profess to have all of the answers. Neither will I promise you that the government will be able to achieve every single thing within the next 5 years, or that I myself might be able to achieve everything that we would want here in the town of Sandy Point. I would want to remind persons that the ministry is there to serve the entire island of St. Kitts, and constituency number 5 is only part of the island. I understand that we do have our own unique needs within Sandy Point, but we must also be mindful that the other constituencies, which of course would also have projects to be undertaken, and you only have a limited amount of funds and other resources to be able to undertake these projects. However, I want to hear from you, the people of Sandy Point, what are the projects that you consider to be important, so that at least when we begin to prioritize, we would know what persons in constituency number 5 are in need of. We have roads, which I am quite aware of, that we have to pave. I'm also aware that we have Mr. Body with us, because when we speak of urban development, there are basically 2 areas which urban development would encompass here in St. Kitts, and in St. Kitts in particular. And those 2 areas are the Bastia community and the Sandy Point community. It is a department which at this point in time is understaffed and underfunded. But of course, as we progress, it is expected that that particular department would become fully operationalized. I can say to you that Mr. Body is the only person working in that department. That should give you an indication as to how understaffed and under-resourced that department is. Of course, there's a permanent secretary in the person of Mrs. Sherilyn Maynard Pemberton, who overlooks the Ministry of Post and Urban Development. There are those of you who perhaps would want to look at some of the dilapidated buildings in Sandy Point and perhaps wonder, in terms of a government, what can be done with those buildings. Some privately owned, and indeed some owned by the government. If we look at where we had the old boys' school, for example, if we look at where we had the old police station, if we look at the old exchange, if we look at the terminus building, we can certainly identify some areas which are owned by the government and perhaps a little easier in terms of coming up with certain proposals and actually seeing them come to fruition with regards to those particular properties. With respect to those which are privately owned, I suspect that legislation will have to be put in place to deal with those. One of the issues currently facing urban development throughout the Basti area is that of vendors indiscriminately setting up shop all over the Basti area. It is an issue that has been plaguing the government, not just this government, but prior governments. And even sometimes as you look around the Caribbean region, you recognize that it's an issue in many of the islands. Urban development has been working to bring some solution to that particular matter. But I mention it because as we look around Sandy Point, I am afraid that we are seeing a similar trend being developed. Persons setting up stalls here, there, and everywhere. Sidewalks are currently being put in as part of the Island Main Road rehabilitation program, and therefore would not become surprising if some persons begin to utilize those sidewalks for that purpose rather than the designated purpose of having pedestrians being able to utilize them. Hence, this evening, you may have your own suggestions as to what can be done to at least find a home for vendors here in Sandy Point so that that problem which plagues Basti hopefully will not become a problem here in the Sandy Point community. Roads, of course, would fall under public infrastructure. And over the years, I have heard the many cries from persons in different areas of the constituency about the need for roads. Be it in the Crabbill area, the farms, meadows area, be it at Roland Hill, be it opposite stadium, in the Stadium View area, where you have persons like Maxwell living, or be it over in the area where you have persons like Vexilla living, or the road there by the Calvary Baptist Tabernacle Church that leads to the preschool. I've heard all of the complaints. Those complaints probably will be amplified very soon when you take, for instance, that only earlier this year we had a new housing community being built in the Crabbill area, and within recent times you have had the distribution of further lands in that area, in the Crabbill Heights area, and also in the Stadium View area. As persons begin to build, as infrastructure is placed in some of those areas, such as water and electricity, of course, more persons will be asking for roads. Again, I say to you that just as persons in Sandy Point will be asking, so too are persons in other communities. I fully understand that each person will have his or her road as his or her priority. But we also have to be mindful of others. I recall my days as the Minister of Education when there were persons who said to me that you're Minister of Education, they expect this in Sandy Point, they expect that in Sandy Point. But when you have a next school where every single classroom is leaking, what do you say to the children in those classrooms? Additionally, I can't form a government by myself, and I'll never lose sight of that. The government that you have placed to perform on your behalf has given a commitment to all of the people to perform on behalf of all of the people. It is because we stood by that commitment that we were able to be returned, not with the same mandate, but with a bigger mandate, with an increased number of votes. For the most part, electricity has been stable, but as a ministry, we are now looking at working with SCELEC to ensure that in terms of renewable energy, that becomes the focus during this new term of the Team Unity administration. Therefore, as I said earlier, I want to leave that ministry in the next 5 years with my own legacy, and part of that legacy will be to ensure that we see to a much greater extent renewable energy here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Be it wind farming, be it solar farming, or be it waste to energy. Those are some of the alternatives that are currently being considered. Water, we have been somewhat fortunate in the Sandy Point community to have a reliable supply, except in times of severe drought. However, there are other places, other communities within St. Kitts that at this particular point in time suffer from an inadequate supply of water. The goal then, of course, is not only to bring an adequate supply to those communities, but also to ensure that we have an adequate supply to supply the entire Federation, including Sandy Point, even during times of drought. As we continue with the Island Main Road project, the project, as you can see, is just about on both ends of Sandy Point, just about in the area entering to Crab Hill. Work is being done, and you would also recognize that work is being done in the New Guinea area. Many of you perhaps also wondering why the project has gone from coming into Sandy Point to the New Guinea area. There are some underground pipes, water pipes, that are in need of changing, and those pipes are on order, and so they are waiting for the arrival of those pipes to change out the pipes, because it makes no sense to pave the road in Sandy Point to then have to dig it up to replace those underground pipes. So it's not that Sandy Point has been skipped, but Sandy Point and some other areas, the underground pipes must be changed as a matter of priority before the road is paved. The sidewalks, however, I must say that I am impressed, because you have sidewalks going in just about every area of Sandy Point. I mean, some areas where I never thought could have fitted a sidewalk, you see sidewalks being built. Right now, they're just outside the Methodist Church in Crab Hill. The Cleverly Hill area has benefited from quite a few. You have seen some in the alley area, the Mount Idle area where the benches are, and literally all over Sandy Point on the Island Main Road, you're seeing the sidewalks being put in. And I would want to suggest to persons that there are an investment in the people of Sandy Point. Therefore, utilize the sidewalks. In the past, you had no choice but to walk on the side of the road. And some persons would have lost their lives, some persons would have gotten into accidents and be injured as a result of such. Let us not only as adults utilize them, but also teach our children to utilize those sidewalks. In the run-up to the campaign, we launched our manifesto, and one of the things which you will find in the manifesto is a bypass road for Sandy Point. That is a commitment that has been made, and it is a commitment that the ministry intends to pursue. As a matter of fact, I am aware that some giants have already been done in respect of that bypass road for the Sandy Point community. The post office. A complaint for persons here in Sandy Point. I've heard from persons about the slow delivery of mails. I know of persons who have personally trekked to the post office to collect mails. I know of persons who wonder why is it that they can't get their mail within a speedier manner. That, therefore, is also an issue that has to be addressed. In saying that, I want, though, to say to you that one of the concerns that I have received since becoming the minister is, one, in light of COVID-19 and the social distancing protocols, that some of the postmen and women would prefer if persons have mail receptacles available to put in their mails rather than having to come into direct contact with persons. Additionally, there are some persons who have dogs in their yards, and so the postal workers, they have difficulties, they have a fear of entering those yards. Some other persons, because of how the windows are closed, because of how the doors have been built, it is difficult whether to throw the mail through the window or underneath of the door. This evening I want to make an appeal to all of you to try as best as possible to get a mailbox. And when I say a mailbox, I'm not talking necessarily about a mailbox at the post office, but get one of those mail receptacles that you can place someplace, maybe along your fence, that persons, the postal workers, can drop off your mails. At the post office, you can buy those postal boxes. I think we have some selling for $110, and we have some selling for a little less than that. We are encouraging persons to purchase them. Please purchase them and make it easier for the postal service to be able to carry out the service of the delivery of mails. There's currently, as I know, one of the postmen that we had here in Sandy Point, he has resigned, and so that is also being looked at to ensure that at least in the interim, that mail is still being delivered in a most efficient manner. So that is also being worked on, and it is a concern which is noted. I spoke to electricity, I spoke to water, I spoke to post, maintenance of government buildings, also falls under public infrastructure. And we have a number of public buildings here in the Sandy Point community. We have schools, we have the post office that I just referred to, we have the sporting complexes, we have this, the community center, and a number of others. We at the ministry, we have oversight for the maintenance of those buildings. Of course, it comes with support from the line ministry for those facilities. So for example, the schools, we would expect Mr. Hodge to fork out the money from the Ministry of Education so that Public Works can assist with the maintenance. And I don't want anyone, I highlighted that because I don't want anyone to go away with the thinking that if you see a building dilapidated, that it's necessarily Public Works which hasn't been paying attention to the building. The line ministry still has oversight for the particular building, but Public Works assists with the maintenance of those buildings. I'm not sure if I've forgotten any particular assignment which falls under the new portfolio, but if I do, and you have any questions pertaining to any of those matters, of course, I expect you to raise those concerns. I am also aware that there are persons in here who may have other questions not related to the portfolio, but related otherwise to the development of Sandy Point, and hopefully we're able to entertain those questions and provide you with answers to those questions. As I take my seat, I want to do one thing which perhaps I should have done during the earlier part of my remarks. That is to say publicly once more a very special thank you to the outgoing chairman of Carnival, Mr. Noah Mills. And your chairperson has been appointed for Carnival, but during the last 5 years, as I had ministerial oversight for Carnival, I think all of us can agree that Noah did an excellent job in terms of moving the Carnival product here in St. Kitts and Nevis beyond what we were accustomed to. With him, we have left a rich legacy for Carnival. For example, when I became the minister for Carnival, we had a budget allocation of $800,000 each year. The incoming chairperson is Shannon Harley, and her team, I congratulate her, but she will be the beneficiary of a budget of $2.6 million in respect of Carnival that we were able to successfully lobby for. When we also took over Carnival, Carnival had, I think it is about $32,000 in its account. Today, Carnival has almost $600,000 in its account. And again, that is to the credit of Noah and his team who ensured that the fiscal affairs of Carnival were indeed properly managed. So as I take my seat once more, I say thanks to all of the persons for your support, for working with you over the years, and for the commitment that you have given in terms of your continued support to ensure that we develop even more the beautiful, historic, and proud town of Sandy Point. Thank you.
Let us give the Honorable Sean Richards another round of applause. I think he has given you much food for thought. And before I go into some of what he said, let me ask the driver of P7287. Driver of P7287, your lights are on. So can you go to your vehicle and turn your lights off, please? Thank you. Okay. Yes, so the minister has given us much food for thought. Remember that he said, as the Minister of Urban Development, Infrastructure, Posts, Utilities, he is not only the minister for Sandy Point, but the minister for the entire country. So the entire country will have to benefit. He also paid tribute to his outgoing staff at the Ministry of Education, and he also made mention of the work on the roads that is happening in Sandy Point, and for us as pedestrians to make good use of the sidewalks. He also made mention of what is in the manifesto of the bypass road for Sandy Point. And I know most of us are looking forward to that road. So, all in all, we are on the right track. And I only hope that when you are ready to ask your questions, you will do so in an orderly manner. And there's a mic in the middle of the room. You can raise your hand, go to the mic, and I will acknowledge you and make sure that you ask your pertinent questions. Also, I wish to apologize to Cindy. I said Cindy Deming, I forgot Cindy Deming Nias. My apologies, Cindy. Also, if you look at the front here, there's a beautiful cake, well decorated, with the People's Action Movement symbol, which is the hat. And the cake was done by Island Bakeries. Now, it's time for you to ask your questions and give your comments. So I recognize Cindy first and then Lorenzo Williams.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Sandy Point? Come on, now you sound dead, man. I can't even sing Sean, We Love You. You want to sing it for me? No gimmicks? No gimmicks? Thank you. On behalf of the Honorable Sean K. Richards, I would like to call these persons up front. Prince Hodge, Shermel Taylor, Sanjean Richards, and also ask Tracy to accompany me. Tracy, could you come forward, please? Prince, you're just behind me, so just stand. Shermel Taylor and Sanjean Richards. Tracy not there? Okay, Hardis, could you come, please? And so these persons, we know that we are going through trying times, and the minister wants to help as much as possible. It's not a lot, but in everything we give thanks. So we would like to present some $100 vouchers to each person whose name I'm calling. Yes, you can clap. So Hardis. We're going to make this presentation to Prince. That's on the side. Congratulations, Prince. And we are going to shop for those. The food voucher can be picked up from E&K Supermarket. You know, that's Curry's. $100 vouchers for persons in Sandy Point. The next person, Shermel Taylor, come please. And the next person, Sandrine Richards. Throughout the evening, other persons will be getting as it's random. Thank you very much. All right, while they do that, I'll start with my presentation. And I wrote it because I want to stay on script. So, Sean, we love you. Give me a smile now. Not a whine, I say a smile. Nice. Congratulations to the Honorable Sean K. Richards. I applaud you. 4 feet is no easy feat. What you say, Sandy Pointers? It's no easy feat. And I knock in my chest because I can boast. I was his campaign manager when he did the best ever and any candidate in Sandy Point. So congratulations. Woman power. And listen here, I couldn't do it alone. It's the hundreds of people who supported the campaign. We did it. So give yourself a round of applause. And if you're a woman, knock your chest. Especially our PLP supporters who were with us. PLP in Sandy Point, knock your chest. Thank you. And you, the people of St. Christopher 7, Sean could not have won without your unwavering support. So big up yourself and knock your chest again. Sandy Point, St. Christopher 5. St. Christopher 5. From Cleverly Hill, Romney Ground to Fig Tree. And so we like it, like this in Sandy Point. That's right. Say, me can't get tuned all. Aha. You sing it, me talk it. Permit me, though, to reinforce a line that Mr. Weeks gave when he introduced Sean. Now, this is serious. We must be his eyes and his ears. Sean, if I may, the minister, he cannot be everywhere every minute of the day. So when he's in his office at Urban Development and Public Infrastructure, and we're down here in Sandy Point, see something going wrong, we let him know. And when we see it going good, we let him know too. Because we only like to complain, but we do not like to say, job well done. Because Sean only has been in office for 6 years, 1 term and almost a month. But the things he has done for Sandy Point is as if he has been there for 20 plus years. Wrong or right? Exactly. And in a meeting I had recently, somebody said everybody looking for bounty. It's the truth. All of us looking for something because we voted for him. But all of us can't get at the same time. So when somebody get, let us celebrate what they get. Return coming. And as a Christian, I truly believe that all of us will get something at one time. Now, Sean, I would like to admonish you. Because you can't be there for everybody all the time, you're a human being and you get tired too. And you need to refuel yourself. Because if you do not take care of yourself and refuel yourself, you cannot help none of us. So please, let us work with Sean and support him. Help to feed him. And when I say feed him, not necessarily with rice and chicken and pigtail, because he don't eat that. But if he wants it, he gets it. Thank you. Let us feed him with inspiration and good information to help him win at the polls in 2023 with 1,000 votes. And as we prepare him, the pathway and the journey for him to come one of the best prime minister that St. Kitts Nevis would have seen, let us continue to support the gentleman. He has done us well, and we should support him. Imagine we both staying, and Sandy Point is both staying. The PM is from Sandy Point. I can't wait for that. So Sean for PM, let us build up around him. Let us empower ourselves. Let us empower him and stay positive. Gratitude is a must, and I'm going to end like I started. Sean, we love you, and my friend behind you, sing it. We like you like this, just like this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cindy. Cindy is on fire tonight. Larry?
Mr. Minister and everyone, good evening. I'm coming somewhat different, but still, I would say my fellow Pam, right? Even when the thing that helped me sometimes, when I used to go to school, everybody used to call me Pamela, right? And I used to be boasting with it. But Mr. Minister, it aches me sometimes. I am at the Charles E. Secondary School. Everybody that come to that school complain about how the entrance of the school look. I know you're not Minister of Education now. You have Mr. Body with you. Something needs to be done about the road going down and beautifying that area. I see Mr. Hodges here. The entrance of the school, and we need to be in a position just like when we look at the television, the hall need fixing and come to a professional state. I know this is COVID, so I'm not going to jump, but I just want you to get it in your mind. Now, the other issue, I look at the old clinic. The wall that is going, the sidewalk that is there now. Now, I don't know how high up the wall is going to go, but a barrier must be placed just outside the nursery there, because trust me, children that come out the nursery, they could swing and drop straight over in the road. It is high. So that need looking after, please, sir. I ain't gonna be long. So the barrier, now I must touch on something else here. You don't have to answer this tonight. Cindy just make a big speech, I'm going to put it that way, and people clap. You don't have to answer us tonight. But we are living in a real world, and we do hear things. To say that you're going to be the next Prime Minister, I would like if you could explain to us, as I say, you don't have to be tonight, what is the procedure of electing party leader? And I say party leader, meaning of PAM. We hear things. And we hear things. And trust me, you know what, you smile, you know what I'm talking about. You don't have to answer tonight. So Hardis and all of you on the committee, I don't know what is the procedure in electing or selecting party leader. But I know you got your hand full with that. So let us not play naive. It is something real. Now, a lot of people in here we got to give thanks to. I am around a long time, and I look around, and trust me, some of us still in the same old way, that there are persons who jumped the ship from Labour and decided to vote PAM. And when I know of some persons, when they go down by the constituency office, because some of the persons there know this person from this family and the family, the negative comments, and we got to stop that. We got to stop it. It is happening. Mr. Richards, talk to them. All of you in here can hear me. Everybody have a fundamental right, but some people jump ship and lie they gone there, and you still give them trouble. And I must say, and there's a lot of people we have to give thanks to. But you see Marsha and Janice Delante, trust me, they came from PLP. And when I saw what they were doing and how they were mobilizing and getting things done, it hurts me to see that people who there from day one, St. Pam, still sticking here. And these people came and made a difference. But you know, other people did. But we got to understand we are all different. I think I'm going done just now. Wait, let me see. Something else I miss. I ain't got my glasses. I'm coming. Now, I must hit you with this one. Two more things I'm going to hit you with. You must have a connect with the constituents. You see, we come out here tonight. It was lacking in your last term. Find time. It don't have to be every day, every week, but find time to meet at your office. Somebody going to come in there and have a concern. You need to pull up your socks when you come around that. And I mean it from the crown of my body to the sole of my foot. Right? And I'm done now. There's something that, last one, there's something that even when I'm walking coming up the road tonight, I just wanted to make sure it ain't changed. You see how we want the picture up there and you're full of smile and everything looks so good? Something that hurts me to a core and the number of persons that it hurts to. When I put on your WhatsApp and I see ATM out of service, you are the Deputy Prime Minister, change it. You don't change it? Oh, it's your phone, but you are the Deputy Prime Minister. It's your phone, I know. But anyhow, no argument. I am all good. Have a blessed evening.
Thank you, Larry. Now, Dennis.
Good evening, folks. First, I must say congratulations to the minister on your re-election. You have done a good job, and I expect you to do the same in this new ministry. Now, I have one concern. Now, since my return home, I realized that from 1967, down at Fig Tree, down at Pombe, we have a problem down there. And I don't believe it is right that in 2020 that we got to go to Bastille to go and clear things in customs and at the Port Authority. I believe the time has come and it is right. And we can always use the Taiwanese or the Japanese in terms of fisheries that we can develop a good structure. You can always have a Port Authority incorporated in it, and you could even have what do we call these minimal for boats. You know, you're going to have a marina. But I feel that the people in Sandy Point needs better than that. We can develop Fig Tree and have a proper pier, a proper Port Authority, and a proper customs. So I would like, during this term, that is something that you will look at. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Dennis. I don't know at this time if the minister would, if I'll pause the questions and ask the minister to respond. The first question was something needs to be done at the entrance of the Charles E. Mills Secondary School.
Thank you to the persons who would have posed those questions. The entrance of the high school, what I would say to that particular question is that during the last 5 years, we have had a number of changes, a number of areas that we have had to repair at both the primary school, the high school and the early childhood centers here in Sandy Point. In my remarks, I said that we have had to prioritize in terms of what we do at all of the different schools. I made reference, for example, how do you ignore a school where you have every single classroom leaking and perhaps spend the money instead looking at the entrance area of Sandy Point High School. I don't think it would have been fair to those children with leaking classrooms to do such. Even at the high school itself, currently we're looking at a new bathroom block at the Sandy Point High School, because the bathroom block there has been in existence since the school was opened back in 1965-66, since the school was opened in 1966. That, of course, must be a priority over the entrance to the school and beautifying it. Because at the end of the day, what we get from our children is a result of the quality of teachers that we have at the school and also the facilities available to teach the children. The TVET program, for example, will expand the Sandy Point High School. When I came into government and was appointed Minister of Education, what was then the fifth farm block, we had to change the entire roof there. And I can recall the contractor then saying that is some 15 or 20 wheelbarrows of bat feces had to be removed from that roof, and the contractor is actually right here and can give evidence to what I am saying. We have an electrical problem at the school. We have repainted the school. And so you have had various issues at the school. And so while it is that the entrance may not be the most perfect, I don't think the entrance at this particular point in time is hindering anyone from accessing the school and from getting a quality education at the school. I suppose that in time we will look at the entrance and it will be addressed. But again, we have to prioritize what are the real needs at the school. The auditorium that was referenced, Mr. Hodge can testify that the Ministry of Education has in its possession a plan in terms of that auditorium with new bathrooms. I mean, basically almost a new auditorium that will also enable the children to develop their performing arts skills. And again, that has to take priority over maybe perhaps paving the entrance for the school. And so, Larry, while you're right there at the gate and I understand that particular passion and concern, I think it is really a matter of utilizing the funds in the best possible way at this point in time. I think that would have answered both questions in terms of the auditorium and the entrance to the school. The third question, the wall at the clinic, that I will take a look at. As a matter of fact, I am scheduled to be out in the field in the Sandy Point community next week, Monday morning, so I will put it on the list of items to be looked at by the Public Works Department. How is a party leader elected for the People's Action Movement? The Constitution of the People's Action Movement speaks to that, and that was actually a process that we went through in 2012 when I became the political leader of the People's Action Movement. Basically, it is an election process whereby you can have different persons be nominated by paid-up members of the party. You then have the caucus of the party, and during the caucus, you have 15 delegates per constituency. Each one has the right to vote, and so those 15 delegates from each constituency will vote for the person who they desire to be the political leader of the People's Action Movement. It is the same manner in which the other elected officers, such as the deputy political leaders, the chairman, the deputy chair, etc., are elected. Negative comments by persons toward former Labour supporters. It is an issue which has been plaguing us over and over again. Even during the last election, it's the matter which was raised. We saw persons going to the constituency office and coming back with that very complaint, that persons, they said to them, they don't want them in there because they don't support the People's Action Movement. I continue to appeal to persons, not to say that to persons, we need to embrace all persons. You pointed to Marsha Janice Delante, and I don't think you can give any better of an example, because these are persons we know who would have campaigned and supported the Labour Party, and this election, they voted for me here in Sandy Point. As a matter of fact, I think is Marsha Janice, when she went to vote, she told them point blank. And I went in with her. She said, I'm not going behind any place to vote because I want everyone to be able to see who I am voting for. So you had absolutely no question as to who she voted for. But again, we were only able to have an increased majority in Sandy Point because persons who supported Labour previously decided this time around to support us. And likewise, we have to continue to support those persons so that they have no reason to go back to the Labour Party. I fully take on board the admonition to find time to meet with constituents, and so that is something which is being worked out. This town hall meeting, as a matter of fact, was organized as a first indication that that will change. It is a complaint that I have heard constantly from persons, and so I give you my word that I will make every effort to change that. The WhatsApp picture, I don't know if I should address that in this forum, but I'll say this. I have had up that WhatsApp picture perhaps about 2 years now. I know why I put up that WhatsApp picture. And I think before I do things. And so I put it up fully conscious of what I was putting up. Perhaps it offends some persons. But one, as I said, it's my phone. And so just as anybody else can choose whatever display picture to put up, I think, yes, I'm a minister of government. Yes, I'm the deputy prime minister. But I'm also an individual entitled to a life just like any other person in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. And I'll go further. The reality is that you have some persons who only remember you when they want money. Some persons only remember you at that point in time. And so when you see a message from some persons, you know specifically why those persons are messaging you. And I've said to persons, I have bills to pay just like every single body else. Like everybody else, I have bills to pay. I don't have an ATM machine full of cash so that when everybody comes for money, I have money to give it to every single individual. I have helped, and I have helped nameless persons and numerous persons within and beyond the Sandy Point community. And I will continue to do so, so much as I am able to do so, and with a clear conscience at the end of the day. So some persons may not like it, but I am an individual. And just as others are free to express their views, I also have views which I must be free to express. Thank you. Development of Fig Tree with a proper pier? That has been an ongoing debate here in the Sandy Point community. I personally have my own views relative to that. And I think part of the cry for a pier in Sandy Point is more sentimental than anything else. I think a large part of it is because some of us, especially the older ones, we were accustomed to having a pier in Sandy Point, and so we want to see a pier being rebuilt in Sandy Point. However, I think we have to take into consideration a number of other factors in determining if there is really the need for a pier in Sandy Point. You have the deep water port. You have had an investment in 2 cruise ship piers in the Bastille area. You have a private gentleman, Reg, who has built a pier in the New Guinea area. And so we need to take those into consideration when we say that we need a pier in Sandy Point. What perhaps are we going to do with the pier? Is it for fishermen? Is it for boats coming in from St. Martin, Statia, or wherever those boats are coming from? Is it for boats to go to Nevis? What would the purpose of the pier be? And I think these are critical questions that we need to ask. The proposed development of La Valley, I do believe that if you get the right type of business in La Valley, then perhaps you get the opportunity to put a pier, whether in the Fig Tree area itself or someplace close to that development, to service, whether it is those leisure ships, and when I say leisure ships, not the cruise ships, but what you call those boats? Yachts, that perhaps may want to board there. And even though I say yachts, Port Zante falls under urban development. And UDC, which is responsible for Port Zante, already has within its possession a comprehensive plan in terms of the development of the eastern side of the Port Zante. And that is to put in a next marina there on the eastern side. As a small developing country, we have to prioritize again in terms of resources. We can't have a pier everywhere throughout the Federation, and so we need to determine where do we need a pier, what are the reasons why we need a pier, whether in Sandy Point, in Deep Cayon, or wherever it is in making those particular types of decisions. We have had a government which bankrupt this country. And so we really need to be careful as to how we utilize funds. You spoke about customs, the new police station that has provisions for custom officers to be housed at the new police station. So let us look at it mindfully and determine if at this particular point in time there is really a need for that pier. That's my view, and I know different persons will have a different view in respect of a pier at the Fig Tree area.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Floor is now open for more questions. Janice, recognize Janice.
Good evening, head table, and good evening to all. Janice Lewis, Sandy Point. My 2 questions I want to address to you, Mr. Honorable Richards, is it have 2 buildings there in front by the hospital, Paxton Hospital, the old Paxton Hospital, the medical building. The PEP workers, they put their stuff inside of it. On the way moving forward, I would like to know what you're going to do to the building. I think my suggestion, I don't know. I'm just saying that I think you should put an office there for the PEP workers that cut grass, like how they're already using it, putting the tools inside of it. And the next one, I don't know what you want to do with it, but just try to fix it up, because remember it's on the main road, so try to fix it up. And my next and last, you have the road behind of us, Farms Extension. When they have like fast traffic on the main road, or if a little accident, the vehicle will divert and come behind there, drove behind there. I think that need to fix, look after, and put lights behind there. Thank you.
The lady by Dorita, you had your hand up to ask a question. Come, please.
Good night to everyone. I am Ichel Belboda. And my question or my concerns to Minister Richards, over the years, we would have known that there are many difficulties with public works and the way in which they would operate in doing repairs in government buildings and stuff like that. As the new minister, I would want to see a change in the operation of the public works workers in terms of giving a particular team who would be responsible for certain repairs so that it can be done in a timely manner. In terms of schools, we know they would come often for overtime. They are seeking overtime, and they would bring the bags, and then tomorrow you hear, oh, we have to come back, they forget this. And those are some of the things we would like to see change, so that repairs can be done in a timely manner and they are done in an efficient way. We must utilize persons who are effective and efficient. That's one. Two, you would have, Ms. Devin would have said she wants us to be your ears, and we really would want to be your ears and your eyes. And so we are saying that, as Larry would have mentioned, your appearance, I'm suggesting that the office can be open and persons can go there and relate their concerns, or even if you can organize a team, and so people can be able to relate to those persons and give their concerns, and they can be addressed speedily, and so that we would all be happy. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I see a gentleman. Yes, come to the mic, please.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. My name is Thomas Richards. I'm a Christian for the past 35 years. Mr. Sean Richards, I just want to recommend you for a well job, well done. Congratulations. Okay, I have two concerns. You refreshed my memory tonight when you speak about maintenance of the schools. I was recommended a couple of years ago to maintain Newton School, St. Paul's School, and Gateway School, but I was blocked. And the person has passed away. I need not to mention his name. I am offered myself for that job. Okay, being in Newton Ground, I know that they promised they will be doing elections reform. And I know Newton Ground will be a part of Sandy Point. So anyhow Sandy Point, well, I'm just speaking. I'm just speaking. So anyhow Sandy Point have a town hall meeting, I always come and listen. You have no fear in Newton Ground. We are all one. I always tell people I went to Sandy Point High School. And if you could speak sense of nonsense, you know what I mean. Okay, my next question. I speak over the years to the PM concerning a problem we have in Newton Ground, down by my area, by the school. There's a drain problem. And right now, there's a house going on right there, and we're in a hurricane season, and the drain need properly to maintain, because I believe that there's somebody's house lot that can be removed because the drain have to go down to the sea. And I would just want to know if you can do something concerning about that, so we can be better served in Yungo. God bless you and all the best.
Thank you. Can we have one more before the... Yes, Alex? Oh, sorry.
A pleasant evening to everyone. And my name is Rosemary. Okay, I have 3 issues. One, we know we are going into the hurricane season, which it has already begun. And I'm wondering if under your ministry, if overhanging trees in roads, if that's a part of your ministry, I don't know. For instance, I have a concern about some trees on Millard Street by Miss Manchester's property. They're not only overhanging, but they are coming through the wall structure. And at times, some parts of the walls have fallen into the road. Secondly, you mentioned that we need to begin to look at the abandoned or derelict properties in Sandy Point. And I was quite happy when you mentioned that, because just today, my daughter and I were looking at some going down Station Street. Now I have some suggestions how we may foster community ownership and pride. We could use them to have, where we could host pop-up shops or bars. Currently, when I look at Crabbill area, I see 3, well, they're not really bars or shops, but persons are selling, doing their business, and that is commendable. And they're in the same vicinity. So I'm thinking that persons will not have a problem if they are hosted in the same area. So maybe if, as a community, persons who can build, clean, whatever, if we can all come together to maybe clean one of the government properties to set up some kind of, where they can have their shops. Especially right now where, the roads are being fixed and the dirt or some of the vehicles are driving. I don't think that's the best for business. We can also look at living accommodations, maybe get a museum in Sandy Point. When I think about the Manchester building, up the alley, where I think the old boys, a school used to be there, old boys school, right. And we also need to have a youth center where we have games, some form of entertainment, mentorship, counseling services for our young people. We find that in Sandy Point, children don't really have anywhere to go to just, have some clean fun. They don't have anybody they can go and talk to, maybe out other than in the school setting, and sometimes they need more than just the teachers or whatever programs are being offered in the school. So if we can have some place, we even have the community center, because I wonder, what do we use the community center to do on a daily basis? What is it being used for? Nothing? Exactly, and the space. So we need to bring something for the youth. We can also reach out to owners to see if we can get some of the buildings to be used as temporary shelters. Because too often we have persons, women, even sometimes men, children who are being abused, whether it's physically, verbally, and they just need somewhere to go for a short period. And so we can have temporary shelters. Sometimes we have homeless persons, maybe just for a time. Persons who just need to get away from home. So we can look at something like that with some of these abandoned buildings. Now, during the tour of the new police station, you indicated that some spaces or rooms had not yet been allocated for specific purposes. However, I just heard you mention that Mr. Brown worked there. Custom officers will be there. I'm wondering if they're going to be taking up all of those spaces. Are there still some spaces available? Because I was thinking that we could probably bring a counseling center to Sandy Point instead of persons always having to go to Bastia, whether it's for family counseling, whether it's juvenile delinquents, even police officers, anybody. We can have it here since we're now having space. And of course, the neighboring communities can also benefit from these. So I hope that we'll be able to bring some of these extra services to Sandy Point.
Thank you, Rosemary. I now ask the minister to respond. Thank you.
Thanks for those questions. The first one, I think, came from Ichel. What will be done with the 2 old buildings opposite the hospital? And I think she's, Janice, sorry. And I think she's referring to the old post office and the old clinic. And again, I would want the community to help to guide the ministry in terms of possible usage for those spaces. As I said, I am only one person here in the Sandy Point community. And you know, interestingly, today I was doing some reading, and it's about action research, participatory action research. And one of the basic concepts coming out of that is that quite often we sit down and we generalize in terms of persons, the needs of persons, or because we feel that one particular solution was good in a particular situation, we think we can apply that same solution to all similar issues. But you have to look at things in a localized context. You have to get the involvement of persons who are affected within the particular community, the particular group. You get feedback from them. And it is true that sometimes you're able to come up with what is best. And I think this town hall meeting to some extent represents that. What the persons want to see. So you have made your suggestion in terms of an office for the step workers. We have a number of persons in here, and I want persons to feel brave enough to go to the mic and at least indicate what you would want to see. Because I don't intend to sit in an office and make those decisions, and then I'm going to hear from persons, well, you shouldn't have put this here, you should have put this there, because you get that from persons. And I've been always open to listening to persons and to get suggestions and feedback from persons. At the end of the day, I may not necessarily agree with you, but if this is what the majority of persons are saying, then I think the fittest thing to do is to follow the suggestions by the majority of persons. So we have had one suggestion in terms of the step office, or the step workers being given an office space there. About other persons not necessarily in here, you say that the space could be looked at in terms of a library for the Sandy Point community, because the library is supposed to be temporarily housed here at the community center. So that might be a possible usage for that area there. Rosemary, in her comments just now, she spoke to a center for young people. She spoke to a counseling center. In speaking to the counseling center, she recommended perhaps space at the police station. This is a matter that she and I have discussed before privately. And I told her it's something that perhaps I can speak to the permanent secretary for national security about. But as she said it just now, there's also something else that crossed my mind. You're looking at a counseling center for young persons. And so while the police station comes to mind because you have additional space there, the other thing that crossed my mind just now, if you take young persons or persons with issues to a police station for counseling, what perception those persons might have and how might it affect them, not necessarily in terms of the counseling that is being provided, but to go to a building designated as a police station where you have some persons being detained, etc., a magistrate court also located there, fire station located there. In thinking about it just now, I actually wondered if that would be the ideal place to ask persons to come for counseling. But again, those are only my thoughts. I'm not an expert in this field. And so that is why the rapport is good, because you get the different ideas, and I suppose at the end of the day, we can put those ideas to the persons who are experts, and they may be able to tell us something that perhaps we have not been thinking of. Kinik, I think you did psychology counseling. A police station is the best place for something like that. And her daughter disagrees. So, again, it is good for us to be able to have these conversations, because as I said, we discussed it before, and it's only just now that aspect of it really crossed my mind. But maybe some other place, some one of these other dilapidated buildings can be used to build that sort of center, or even in building a multi-purpose building for other purposes, that space be allocated in that building for such. Roads need fixing and placement of lights in the area there to the back. I do agree, and so that suggestion is taken on board. A change in the operations of the public works, many issues such as repairs. I can only agree with that. There really ought to be a change in how public works operates. It has been a frustration for many persons. When I was at the Ministry of Education, I constantly complained about it. And so we have to look at the operations and see in what ways improvements can be made. As it is right now, I'm a little handicapped at the ministry as I'm without a permanent secretary. But as those things are put in place, then of course we'll be able to look at those aspects of the operation of the ministry. The opening of the constituency office and a team to address concerns taken on board to be dealt with. Mr. Richards spoke to him being given an opportunity to do maintenance for the primary schools in Newton Ground and St. Paul's. I can say that at the Ministry of Education, we don't have any maintenance private persons being allocated to maintain any of the schools. There is a unit within the Ministry of Education which is dedicated to looking at maintenance issues within the schools. When there are issues, some of the jobs are handled by public works, and some of them, depending on the nature of it and how busy public works might be, those jobs are outsourced to private contractors. The budget at the ministry, I don't think at this particular point in time allows for the ministry to be able to have persons dedicated to a particular school in terms of dealing with the maintenance issues. The drainage problem opposite Newton Ground Primary School, that is an issue I've heard about before, and so you'll get the Public Works Department to look at that issue and see how best it can be addressed. Rosemary, some trees overhanging at Millard Street. I think that might be the Environmental Department to address those concerns, and it's really unfortunate sometimes that government resources has to be utilized to. And Mr. Body is also indicating that the NEMA team can assist with that. But ideally, when you have a residence, you really and truly should be looking after it rather than the government having to use its resources. But we understand in some cases that will become necessary. The Center for the Youth, again, good suggestion that can be looked at. The temporary shelters, again, we have buildings or properties that can be looked at for such. I already spoke to the counseling center at the police station. The floor remains open so that persons may ask their questions.
Okay, before we... Wait, Cindy, before you get into that, there are some persons logged on in the diaspora, so we'd like to acknowledge them and to say thank you for logging on, about 30 persons. So on behalf of the minister, I would like to thank you for logging on as Sandy Pointers in the diaspora and to make sure that your voices are being heard. Thanks. Cindy?
Thank you very much. On behalf of the minister, and to do it quickly, we have 3 more winners, and they are Latoya Bellborder, come please, Cedric Gums, and Terencia Johnson. $100 food voucher at E&K. Congratulations. Cedric Gums and Terencia. We wasn't doing this, you know, I had this guy trying to join. We do it upside down. Okay, Cedric, come please. And Terencia Johnson. Terencia not here. At this time I'll call MacGyver then. I see MacGyver. You don't want it? And if Terencia is here still, there's one for her. Congratulations. Okay. Debbie Johnson, Claudette Phillip, and Vexilla. Come forward, please. Vexilla? Yes, Cathy. Claudette Phillip? I see Claudette outside. I saw her earlier. Come first, Claudette. Thank you. Claudette Phillip. Someone want to take this one for Terencia Johnson? If not, I'll give it to someone else. Okay. Okay. And the final one for Terencia. Come, Debbie, take it for her. Congratulations. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Cindy. Now, you people at the back, can you lower your voices, please? Now I'll call on Mr. Ron Body to make a presentation. He's the Acting Director of Urban Development.
Thank you, Prince. Presentation, no. I just wanted to interject. Good night, my fellow Sandy Pointers. The main purpose of the gathering this evening, the forum, was to get some ideas, get some suggestion from our Sandy Pointers as to where do we go forward in the development or the redevelopment of our beloved Sandy Point. You know, Sandy Point, I grew up here. We have always been called boasting as Sandy Pointers because we've always been proud. We've always been in love with our Sandy Point. And I am proud to be called a boasting Sandy Pointer. So, that being said, the comments, the suggestions that I've been hearing thus far, I think are very useful to what the Urban Development Unit would be using to put together to prepare a plan for the way forward for Sandy Point. Some of the areas that are coming from you, some of the jottings that we would have made note of previously. So I'm happy that we didn't have to put it forward to you and I'm getting it from you. It's always better to have a bottom-up approach than to drop stuff on people. It never works out that way. Urban development, just wanted to say, is a new office, it's a new concept for our country. Some of I know a lot of you might not be familiar with what the office does, so I just wanted to enlighten you somewhat. Urban office is new. It's only been in existence for 3 years. And over the past 3 years, I'll just let you know what we've been dealing with. With regards to housing, recognizing that, like Bastille, there's no more area to expand. So we look at what we call urban housing. And one of the projects that we pushed forward was the housing on Wellington Road. I'm sure most, if not all of you, are familiar with that project. 4th Street lighting, we would have had a complaint just as I entered the office that 4th Street was kind of dark and stuff, so we developed a project to replace the lighting on 4th Street, and that was done. The traffic lights and the east and west bus terminal, these are things that we do in urban development. We prepare projects and see them through. So I'm happy that I'm getting from you some of the projects that we can possibly put forward to the minister and ultimately to cabinet to get, I want to use the word transformation of the Sandy Point area. And I just wanted to say that, and we can move forward with the questions as we go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Body. Honorable Minister, there's a Sandy Pointer in Miami. He wants to know if there are any plans for the public market in Sandy Point. Major.
Thank you. Good night, Mr. Minister. I too would like to say how proud I am of you. And I wish you all the best. Anyhow, as I was there sitting, and the lady was talking about the use of the old clinic and the old the building that used to house the post office. It came to mind that since in the days when I was chairman of the NEMA District 5 Committee for Sandy Point, we have been trying to locate somewhere that the committee can be housed. We were promised by Jacinth Henry Martin that we would get a space in the hospital when it was finished, but that didn't materialize. And thinking about it, I think we need more space than that small area at the old post office, because the organization is going to need space to store stuff. And I was wondering, I heard you spoke about the old police station, and the thought came to me that we might be able to utilize the building at the top. I don't know how good it is, but it should be a good building that could accommodate the NEMA District 5 Committee. Secondly, I just want to know if there are plans to bring back the scenic railway to the Sandy Point area. I don't know what is the government idea, but I just wanted to know because people are concerned and people want to utilize the land, and there's a rail that would have to be fixed. There are guts, bridges that might be broken down. I mean, these bridges are going to have to be repaired. So I don't know what plans you have for bringing back that thing in just an idea.
Okay, thank you, Major. Edwards.
So blessed good night to everyone. Just one question. As a footballer who's trying to organize flag football in Sandy Point, I would like to know what plans we have coming for the old recreation ground. That's my question. Billing back up, William.
Good night, Sandy Pointers. Good night, Mr. Richards. Congratulations on your victory. But it's not every day that we have a minister and an urban developer both from Sandy Point. You know, I always want to see my Sandy Point nice and pretty. I want Sandy Point to look good always. Right? I am very excited about the bypass road that you say you're going to do. I just want to see the drawings. You know, I'm just happy. But I just feel to myself that we have to designate a place to build a nice shopping center and make Sandy Point a beautiful town, as it should be. Right? I was suggesting a place maybe outside where the scenic railway they put up the people. And you could design a lovely area there that we could develop a nice shopping center, and we could name it the Westline Shopping Center. With Newton Ground involved, St. Paul's involved, we got Sandy Point, we got Half a Tree, you know, and have a lovely design of something in the area so Sandy Pointers could be proud about. You know what I mean? As the developer said, he wants ideas. Well, this is my idea to you, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Before I ask the minister, I have one more question before Walsey, and then we'll ask the minister. Okay, come on.
Yes, good night, everybody. First and foremost, I want to extend congratulations to the minister for being re-elected to his seat. We look forward to see what you have planned in the new portfolios that you have. So I had two questions, but they were just addressed, actually, from my friend here, Daniel, just mentioned the old recreation ground at between the high school and the primary school. So I was wondering what we had planned in terms of like any infrastructure for there. I know recently they had the pavilion, and that used to service the two schools then when they had like events and such. But I'm not speaking in terms of like football, because I'm not like a football person. So don't feel away. So I was wondering if we can use that same feel to service the community for like exercising. Because I know most of the people them, when they go down there, they use it to like do like exercises and such. I know the primary school goes there to, they practice down at the old field, but they normally run at the new recreational ground. So I was wondering if there can be some kind of facility there to facilitate like exercising, if it can be transformed to like a park, similar to the one up Dorset, where they have like exercise equipment in the park itself, and also like stuff for the little children to play around. Yeah, that's my question.
Okay, one more. We'll ask Walsey, and then we'll ask the minister to respond, please.
Good night. Good evening. I echo the sentiments shared before me. Congratulations, Sean. Congratulations to the team. Congratulations to Sandy Point. Congratulations to everyone who played a part in re-electing our minister and our future Prime Minister. When I stand, I usually wear different hats. So tonight, I stand as a director for Pride Sports Limited. And if I may run you down on Pride Sports Limited, we are the basketball group, the community group in Sandy Point, who went to Scarborough in 2016, won every single game in the A division, transferred to the next Premier League, and brought that trophy home to Sandy Point in grand style. Applause, please. Applause, applause, applaud, applaud, applaud. With that being said, some of you may or may not know the hardship it is for any Sandy Pointer to win a competition in Bastille. That's just me putting it frank. Anything it is, it could be to catch a fly. As long as you're from Sandy Point, it's a struggle, direct. And Pride Sports and our basketball team, they felt that same pressure at Scarborough year in, year out. And we overcame. Okay, but now the company is looking to bring a basketball league to Sandy Point, our very own, and rest Scarborough aside. However, it's in the form of a league called Balls Over Bullets, where we are advocating an alternative to crime, peace on, but still we have to maintain the peace. So it's an alternative to crime through sports. And don't mind I'm saying it's basketball, it's all types of sports. So football as well, everything. It's put down your weapons and pick up a skill, learn a sport. And I say all that to say, Mr. Minister, this league will happen maybe sometime in the upcoming future, next year-ish. And we are asking or looking for what will happen to the hard court. And we're not looking for we're going to build a building or something. The league that we are trying to build and promote, we want something futuristic. We want something that we can say, let's stop up there with this stupid league that they're always cheating us off for, and let the entire federation come to Sandy Point to see how real league go. So we want something nice and fancy in the basketball, in the hard court. And also, our hard court is not only for sports, it's for entertainment as well. So I'm asking you, when sitting down and drawing, making a sketch, I can't draw, making a sketch for what the hard court will look like when you leave that post. We want it to be something that you can be proud of, we can be proud of, and our children can utilize to the maximum. Good night.
Thank you, Alcy. I now ask the Minister to respond.
Thank you. Just to add to the list of possibilities for some of the buildings, there is a gentleman from the Sandy Point community who is suggesting an agro-processing station to be built where you have the old clinic and post office. So again, we are getting different suggestions coming from persons throughout the community. What are the plans for the public market in Sandy Point? The fact is that the public market in Sandy Point is underutilized. It is underutilized. During my days growing up, you go to the public market, you were able to get meat, you were able to get grown provisions, etc. at the public market. For whatever reasons, persons moved away from the public market. Work has been done at the public market, and you now have SPACs, that is the Sandy Point Agricultural Cooperative Society, utilizing the front of the public market. It is perhaps coincidental that as I'm sitting here this evening, I received a letter from SPACs indicating that on Saturday of this week, they will be celebrating the 10th anniversary since the refurbishment of the Sandy Point Public Market and inviting me to be part of a ceremony. The first paragraph of the letter, the Sandy Point Agricultural Cooperative Society will be celebrating its 10th anniversary of the reopening of the Sandy Point Public Market on Saturday, 4th July 2020 at 10 a.m. The government can't do everything. You have the public market there, and it is for farmers to utilize the public market. I see a lady who has set up stall over by the hospital selling her produce across there. And as I said earlier, I suppose it's only a matter of time before you're going to see other persons setting up elsewhere when you have space designated in Sandy Point for such. It is for those who have the necessary authority to ensure that the public market is utilized for the intended purpose. If there are persons in Sandy Point not utilizing the market when the market is there, then it is for those persons to do otherwise, because that is the purpose of the public market. Maybe it is that we need a discussion as to why persons stop using the market or why persons are not going to the market, and having knowledge of the reasons for such, that those issues can be addressed so that we get persons going back to the public market. Space for the Nema district in constituency number 5, and various suggestions were given by Major as to where that space can be located. And again, it is for us to look at it and see the most feasible place. Plans to bring back the scenic railway in the Sandy Point community, that is beyond my authority. The scenic railway is owned by a private company, and that company has made a determination as to the route of the scenic railway at this point in time. As to why they opted to go in that direction as opposed to Sandy Point, I am not quite sure as to what the reasons are. What are the plans for the old recreation ground? Well, in 2015, when I became the Minister of Sports, a similar question was raised. We had concerns about the old recreation ground. An attempt was made then to regrass the old recreation ground. Persons complained that it wasn't done properly, but at least an attempt was made to do so. Not only an attempt was made to do so, but lighting was also placed at the old Sandy Point recreation ground. You had a number of light poles which were placed on the field, and lighting placed on those poles to provide lighting at the ground. Since then, the footballers, they have moved basically to the new recreation ground. Yes, there was a pavilion there. The pavilion was torn down in the best interest of all persons. The Public Works Department had done an assessment of the old pavilion and deemed it a danger. The building was structurally compromised. To your eyes, it may not appear that way, but the engineers at the Public Works Department said the building was structurally compromised, and they recommended that the building be torn down, and as such the building was torn down. Are there plans to put a new pavilion there? At least I don't envision such. And we have again to be realistic. You have the new recreation ground. You have a pavilion at the new recreation ground. There are complaints with regards to the new pavilion. The pavilion at the new recreation ground, it needs maintenance work. However, the Ministry of Sports has taken a decision to build an additional facility at the new recreation ground, because the one which is there is inadequate for different reasons. Not only in terms of maintenance, when rain comes, you can't use it. Persons would also recognize we had to put in some buildings recently to house bars up there. You go up there, you need restroom facilities to use, hardly adequate. You have the schools have sports days there, you have cricket, whatever it is. You have neither VIP area, no media area, nothing at all being provided at that recreation ground in respect of those things. The decision is to build a next facility on the mountainside, on the hillside. Sandy Point is a community within St. Kitts. And to have 2 pavilions within such a small area, I don't think economically that is feasible. And a note, the person who asked the question screwing up his face, but we have to be realistic, because even with your own resources, you will have to make decisions as to what to do with your own resources. And similarly, the government has to do the very same thing in terms of resources. While we might be asking for a second pavilion in Sandy Point, Sadler's are asking for the field to be fenced, Sadler's are asking for lights on the play field. Connery supposed to be getting a new pavilion. I think that bid went out to tender. The tender's probably in for that. Line Keel asking for a pavilion. And when you look elsewhere throughout St. Kitts, you have other communities which are asking for similar facilities. Why should Sandy Point have 2? When there are other communities without? And is there really a need to have 2 pavilions in Sandy Point? It was said, for example, nothing happening down at the old recreation ground. So where are you going to put a pavilion there to do? To serve a field that persons are not using? I don't think economically it is wise to do so. Persons may have a different view. There are other things which perhaps can be looked at in terms of that field. The schools, for example, utilize it, and maybe the schools may have a suggestion as to what else can be done to make it a better facility for usage of the schools, the high school, the primary school, the early childhood centers, because, as I said, they still use it. When we were doing some work in the hard court, we recognized also no bathrooms down there. And so that was taken into consideration when the new facility went in at the hard court to ensure that persons using that field would have access to the bathrooms, which are just on the border of the old recreation ground. Jarek asked a different question, and I think his question was more to do with an exercise park at the old recreation ground. I think that is something that reasonably can be looked at. Equipment that persons can go and exercise in the open, that is something, and it is a matter that actually the sports ministry had looked at. We hadn't decided specifically where to put them, but we had received quotations. The quotations, I must say, were quite high, and that is why we actually hadn't moved to purchase any of the equipment at that point in time. Designate a place for a nice shopping center. Major, I would like if you and a number of other Sandy Pointers, such as Mr. Hodge, Vincent and Mr. Hodge and Mrs. Nayas and Prince and Wilshire, if you all would come together, approach the government and approach the development bank and put down a nice shopping center in Sandy Point. And I say that with all seriousness because there's some things which must be undertaken by the private sector. The government will give the necessary support and incentives to support those particular projects. But the government is not going to build a shopping center. You have lands available in Sandy Point that if persons have the interest, they could purchase the land. I actually know of one supermarket here in Sandy Point, which is not in Sandy Point, in St. Kitts, which is looking at the possibility of putting a supermarket in the Sandy Point community. And the last question came from Ralsei. She asked about the basketball league in Sandy Point and what will happen in the hard court. Part of me wondered if Ralsei has been in the hard court recently. Yes, you have. Because you have some significant developments in the hard court, though not completed, and I will be the first to admit, taking far too long to be completed. The hard court has had some changes, and let me try to quickly go through some of them. You had the resurfacing of the netball court. We dug up the basketball court, put down a basketball court that is of international size. We changed the rims, we changed the poles inside of the basketball court. We put in bleachers because previously you went in there, you had 2 small benches for persons to sit. You now have on the southern side, on the seaside, you now have bleachers for persons to sit on the upstairs of it. You have a media room on the upstairs, or room for referees, that sort of thing. In the back area, you have changing rooms. You have bathrooms in the back area. When that was finished, we said, okay, if persons in there playing netball, well, what about seating for those persons playing netball? And so we put in a next set of seating on the western side of the netball court for persons who are in there looking at a game of netball. A decision was taken, we painted there, gave a contractor the job to do. The contractor locked the paint inside of the stage area, the rooms there to the back. Within a few short days, the contractor came back to the ministry, all the paint them gone missing. Somebody broke in, stole the paint. And these are some of the issues that we face. You have persons vandalizing the property. And so you had to buy paint that you had already paid for to finish the painting inside there. You're going there right now, you would recognize that the lighting in there is being replaced. And even as we received the lighting equipment, you now have to go fabricate something, because it seems as though in terms of what was sent, something off, something missing. So something has to be fabricated. But that is currently ongoing. The trenches are being dug for the wiring and everything, and for the new lighting to go in on the basketball and the netball court. Additionally, when the lighting was ordered, I said to the persons, order 8 of them. Give the basketball court its own light, give the netball court its own light. They went, they counted what was in there, they said 6 lights in there, they ordered 6 again, and so they ordered 6. Now the electrician come and look at it, the electrician is saying they should have ordered 8. Just as I told them. But sometimes the technocrats, they don't want to listen to the politicians. So, we have had that issue. So it seems as though we need to order 2 more poles with lights. But that shouldn't affect it, because what they're going to do is make provisions as they're putting in these. So once you get those, it's just a matter of erecting them. The station for the lighting is being built. There is an electronic scoreboard, just as you have at Basketball City. The platform for that is also being built, and the final aspect would then to be able to put down the matting on the netball and basketball court. Yes, Ralph, you understand that when rain comes, you can't play basketball and you can't play netball. Scabba, which I think has done an excellent job in terms of basketball in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, and so I would not agree with the comments that you made. But similarly, Scabba has been asking for an indoor facility, and there has been a commitment to provide Scabba with an indoor facility. Yes, you have the aspect of rain and the exposure to the elements of the weather, but for now, it will remain like that. And We have been really trying in terms of the development of the sporting facilities in Sandy Point. And if you put a roof there, it means that there are other areas which would have been neglected. Because just as that is your passion, the tennis players, they wanted tennis courts, they got the tennis courts. The young children, your 2 young children, they wanted a play area, they got the play area up at the play field. The schools previously is either they use one of the containers for carnival, they set up a tent or something to use for a bar. We built bars up there. As I said, we have issues with the pavilion, that also has to be addressed. You had no lighting up at the play field, that also had to be addressed. And so with the capital funds allocated from the Ministry of Finance, it's not every single thing that we will be able to do with those funds. And so we have been spending and spending and spending to at least bring the facilities up to a certain standard.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. Now we'll have at least 3 more questions because I think the technical crew has to be off the road by 12 o'clock. They don't want the curfew to kick in while they're on the road, so we have to bear that in mind. So we have Miss Warner, then Hardest, and okay, Mr. Hodge, after Miss Warner, P.S. Hodge, and then Hardest. And I think Deslin has one. Okay, we're going to try and accommodate all of you. So we'll have to move as quickly as possible. Go ahead, please.
Okay, good night to everyone. I just would like to give commendations to Minister Richards. We all as Sandy Pointers are indeed pleased that he has been re-elected to Parliament and he has represented us. To many of us, he has done a good job. To some, they are still disgruntled. However, he cannot please everyone. But there are some things that I just want to suggest going forward as a community and even as our representative, Mr. Richards. I just want to suggest these things. Now, before my question and comment, I had a question regarding the pavilion at the new recreation ground, because I'm now living in that area. I go there to exercise sometimes in the morning, and many of us go there, and we have the issue of safety and security because the field is not fenced. Sometimes we have to be cautious and just be on the alert because we don't know what is happening. And so I just want to suggest that something is done in relation to the fencing of the new recreation ground. And of course, you would have mentioned that there are plans to rehabilitate the pavilion, and we would like to see that happening. Up to today, this afternoon, many of the young persons in the area were out there exercising and that sort of thing. And of course, we'd like to do this in an area more modern and comfortable. Now, because of my love for politics, my increased interest in politics, I would have recognized that there is often a clash between ministerial responsibilities and constituency responsibilities. And we know that as Deputy Prime Minister, you would have had to travel and be involved in a lot of different things. What I would like to suggest going forward is that you balance. You find some balance in terms of the constituents. No, I'm not saying this to offend or anything. What I'm saying is that many of us would not have seen you, for 5 years, whatever. We don't expect they're going to meet everybody, see everybody. But there are avenues that you can create so that we can meet you. We can see you. If you decide, man, I'm going exercising every Saturday morning up the old recreation ground. Sandy Pointers, come, let's exercise together. This is an opportunity that we can have to interact with you, to see you. We ain't got to ask for anything out of your pocket, but that intimate relationship, I think it was missing. I could attest to that, because I remember even before you were elected, if I'm to the foot of Pedro Street and you see me, you'll give me a lift to my house in the middle of Pedro Street. That is how interactive it was, how you are around. We could have seen you, and we know your responsibilities are great, but I'm just suggesting that there be an avenue even once per month or even every other month that you can find the time to just interact. Interact meaning hug, kiss, say something. No. Okay, COVID, yes. But, okay, kiss, suggesting the closeness. Not necessarily come and give us a kiss, but we want that intimacy. It is important, because that, to me, is the difference between the great politicians and the not so great politicians. And we here in Sandy Point want to see you as a great politician. And one of the ways in which this can be done, this can happen, because politics, as we all know, is local. We are the ones who are going to give you our support. We are going to lend you our votes. And so I am suggesting that closeness, that bond, that, how are you doing? What you say? That kind of intimacy, I think it was missing. I know you had a lot to do. I could imagine that you had a lot to do. But I'm saying going forward, more time in Sandy Point, interacting, just that avenue, and we'll be pleased. And that's my contribution.
Good night to everyone. Babsy? I could call on Babsy, that was one of my classmates. So I want to begin by commending our Director of Urban Development, and I'm happy to hear that a plan for the development of Sandy Point is being considered. In terms of those things that should go in the plan, I want to say that Pastor Priska Heiliger asked me to raise at this meeting the community cemetery. I think land was already identified. I'm not sure what happened, but we know that we want a decent place to lay our deceased loved ones to rest when they pass away, and we are fast running out of that space. So she asked me to raise that. What I want to say as part of our development is that we have to bring back the community spirit in Sandy Point. When people like Prince and Sonny and myself, when we were growing up, there was something going around called self-help. The self-help project in Sandy Point is what gave birth to what is now the hard court. I don't know how many persons know that. We used to go to headstones from down the alleyway, pound the stones to start the court. Yes, you know, so that was what gave birth to that, and we need to bring that back in Sandy Point. And to do that, I want to make some suggestions. We need a number of working committees coming out of this group here tonight, this body. I'm happy that so many young people are here, people full of energy, a lot of brain power, and we need to get people engaged, people volunteering to do stuff. And as I said this, I want to say something about Caris Exile, Zoily, because I was appointed as the returning officer for the elections. I had to be ensuring that the voting booths and so on were set up, and I needed somebody with transport. Call Caris, he assisted me. I said, you know what, you need to prepare a bill so we could give to the electoral office so you could get paid for your transportation. Caris said, Mr. Hodge, I am a PAM. I ain't want no money from the government. And we want other persons to be able to come forward and volunteer, give the time. And in the same vein, I want to commend Justin Woodley back there, who was one of the returning officers. He worked with me to help me to lift furniture, move furniture, along with people like Wilshire and so on. So we need people to do things without expecting payment for that. This community center, when we were here for the nomination, Andrew and myself and Cindy and so on, you know, we look at this place and said this place could be used on a daily basis to enhance computer skills or something for our young people in the community. But I think it needs a management committee, and they fall under community affairs. I don't know if we can take that decision in Sandy Point to get a management committee for the community center, but it is really needed, and to ensure that the place is well kept and maintained. Now, how many persons here know that the minister does a scholarship program every year? Not a whole lot of people. Because we have just a small persons in the Ministry of Education who are on the scholarship committee. And we are saying that we want to broaden this committee to wider persons in the community and make it a big thing. Because a number of students who are coming from primary to secondary, secondary to college, to high school, to CFBC, they go away with scholarships every year from the Honorable Minister. And a lot of people don't know that's a well-kept secret. The minister has been doing a lot of stuff. Some of us might have heard it in church that you ain't got to know your right hand, you ain't got to know what your left hand doing. That's what I think of when I think of how Minister Richards operates, having worked close with him for the last 4 years or so. So we want people to serve on that scholarship committee. The back to school. Last 2 or 3 years, the back to school committee again is the same few people, you know, Rosemary and a few others who would come together to assist the minister with this. We want a committee standing so that every year when back to school come around, this committee has that work to do. We want a fundraising committee, not Cindy alone to call people and ask them to give a donation. We got to raise funds. You need a committee, Hardis and all those other people. We want a campaign committee. Somebody said the campaign person, election person. Oh, who it was? Cindy. No, somebody just spoke before me. We got to do continuous registration. We can't wait until an election comes because then you might get one spring and that you don't expect. We got to be constantly registering people when they turn 18. I see the registration officer here. Yes. We got to know who the registration officer is, and when people turn 18, we seek them out and have them registered. I'm telling some people, maybe next election, me and still be working, so hitting the campaign trail hard. Okay. We want a new, I know we want a lot of things in Sandy Point, but for me, maybe sentimental value, we want a nice, decent post office. And you know what? We need to put back a name on it. But we need a nice post office in Sandy Point and put back a name on it. Kenneth Richards, right. Let us say whatever they want to say. Yes, of course. Long service, and you get your mails on time, and he never had no car to drive. He either walk or ride a bicycle or something. And you get your mails with money from the Virgin Islands, and nobody ain't thief nobody money in those days. Last but not least, let me say congratulations to the Honorable Sean K. Richards. I feel extremely proud to have been his grade 6 teacher. Yes. And even though he's no longer my boss, I still have that great admiration and respect and support to see him be a representative that is second to none in this country, and to look forward to him leading the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis whenever the time is right.
Thank you. Good evening. Master of Ceremonies, head table. Tonight, I want to congratulate the Honorable Sean K. Richards for another resounding victory at the polls. And it had to be the A team of constituency number 5
to bring that seat home. It's such a bigger victory. Tonight, it would have been very remiss of me to sit here and not to say anything as chairman of this great constituency. Constituency number 5, Sandy Point, Hub City. Now, Mr. Chair, I have 3 questions and statements. And the first one, under the last administration, the Honorable Wendy Phipps started a project, to turn the old farm's terminus into an elderly home. Unfortunately, the Honorable Minister have gone to a next ministry. So I am calling on the Honorable Sean K. Richards to follow up on that project so we could see it come to fruition. The other one, we have the old police station and the old exchange. Many of you might not know about the old exchange in Sandy Point. There used to be the post office, right? And the courthouse. And I think that we need to do something about that area to enhance and to help to beautify the town of Sandy Point. Mr. Hodge asked make a very bold statement tonight, and he said we want a new post office. And so maybe the new post office could go there. Or we could put a new and a proper daycare center right there, because we, the people of Sandy Point, we are proud people, and we like to multiply fast. So we want space, and right now it's social distance. So I think, Honorable Minister, that could be a good area for the post office, right? And a daycare center for all our Sandy Pointers, rather than taking them to Challengers and other people and so on. And somebody was saying housing by the boys' school. The boys' school up there, all are dilapidated, right? And nothing has been done about it. I think, for real, maybe some townhouses could fit right inside there, the old boys' school that I once attended. So, in concluding, I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you because it has been a very good night. And I love the turnout. Sandy Point is here. And sometimes people might be saying, oh boy, Sandy Point, people dead, this and that. But whenever the bell ring, everybody out in the numbers. Right up as Barbara said. Everybody right out in the numbers. And in concluding, I just want to say a special good night to Marsha and Janice and her son. Welcome. Welcome to Palm City. Welcome to Palm. Thank you. Good evening. Thank you.
Everyone.
Good night, everyone. Good night to the head table.
Excuse me, can we pardon me, Evan, can we get some order at the back, please, while Evan makes his presentation? Thanks.
Mr. Hodge has touched on some of the things, so I won't really go through them. But certainly in terms of committees, I really feel that that needs to be looked at. You need to look at the constituency committee, because I personally don't know when last there was an election. And so when the minister talks about representation in terms of how we elect a leader nationally, well, that starts locally, and you must have that base in order to go nationally. We went into this campaign safer, stronger, and we're all aware that our borders are very open, and Sandy Point in particular. I said in 2015, and I'm going to say it again, that I think we seriously need to look at a sub-base in Sandy Point in terms, because when someone sees some suspicious activity in terms of a boat, by the time you call the Coast Guard and the Coast Guard gets to these waters, they've disappeared. And I think that really needs to be looked at in terms of having
a sub-base in this particular area. There are some things nationally, Mr. Minister. We campaigned very strongly in 2015 on good governance. I'm going to say very, very clearly, Mr. Minister, we failed in a number of areas. And we have 2025 to look forward to. And we cannot waste time this time around. We need to look at the whole issue. We now have that majority in Parliament where we can do certain things. We need to look very carefully at the boundaries. We need to look at the whole electoral process. We need to possibly move from being paper to electronic. But that is all part, I think, Mr. Minister, that the good governance agenda, we truly failed our people in these last 5 years. I don't think that we can fail them for the next 5 years. So I want you to take that on board nationally. On coming back down to local level, there are a number of things, Mr. Minister. I think that you seriously have to think about your representation to the community. And it has been said, and I think you yourself would accept that the previous 5 years, you weren't as visible as you could have been. And that is past. But let us look forward of how you can actually progress going forward to be more visible in our community. One of the things that I really don't agree with, that when persons say of using the constituency office as a representative office, because I honestly believe that is a constituency office for our supporters. How does it look to those on the outside who we want to bring in, that we move it from a constituency office to a representative? I think we need an independent office for that, because you need persons on their position to be comfortable to come in and speak to you. And quite frankly, if Kenny had won and wanted to turn his area, I wasn't going into Labour constituency office as a representative office. And so you think you seriously need to look at that, Mr. Minister. Do not use the constituency office as a representative office. I'll stay there. Thank you.
Good night, good night, good night, good night. Good night. Firstly, on my own personal behalf, I want to thank the Honorable Minister for the courage, in spite of what was said and about Kenny and whatnot. He went out there and beat him like a head teacher, beating a student for coming late. What I want to say tonight, we know about global warming. Because of global warming, the water is pushed more towards the land. Now, fortunately for us in Sandy Point, the Honorable Deputy Prime Minister is the Minister of Works. I want you to really look at the situation in the area by the backway by Mr. Farrier Place. I don't want us to take it slight, because if you go down there have a bit of history to it. Apart from history, when you look at it, if we don't do something about it, there wouldn't be no Methodist cemetery. I believe that as the Minister of Public Work, you could have the engineers and the experts look at the situation and find a solution, not only to bring some comfort or relief to Mr. Farrier, but it could also save our land. Thank you for tonight. That's all.
Okay, Marsha, and then we'll...
A pleasant good evening to all. First, I just want to lay something at the table to get off my mind before I go home tonight. My son Delonte, when he was 16 years old, I had a party for him right here at this community center. And the Deputy Prime Minister that is sitting right there, Mr. Sean Richards, he helped me to plan the party. However, we was here, and I could recall when Mr. Richards come right back behind me at the bar and he said, Marsha, you're sleepy. Go home and I'm going to stay. Thank you very much. I'm so short. Thank you kindly. And Mr. Richards said, Marsha, you're sleepy. Go home. So I said, no, I got the school children them here. I can't leave them here alone in this community center. He said, no, you go ahead home. But to back up a little bit, that Mr. Sean Richards asked me in the afternoon what I want, what else I want. I said, Mr. Richards, I need some cups and some plates and so. And he took me in his vehicle and he went right by the community center, by his constituency office, and he delivered. He gave me some stuff to do the party. Mr. Richards and myself and Janice is from Downing Street, Sandy Point, the best street in Sandy Point. The biggest street in Sandy Point. Thank you. And the reason why I said this, because of what Mr. Williams, Sergeant Williams, that is how I call him, he said a mouthful. So I just wanted to say that Mr. Sean Richards and myself and my son Delonte has been friends for a very long time, but yes, I was on the other side and I didn't jump ship. I'm a member of the People's Labour Party. Actually, Mr. Mills is the chairman and I'm the deputy chair for the People's Labour Party. However though, we was asked to work alongside Mr. Richards, and we did. And sir, I want to congratulate you because Cindy's right here on my left-hand side, and I did said, Cindy, Mr. Richards is going to get 500 and something votes. He's going to beat Kenny so bad. And you did. So I just said that I want to congratulate you highly and also tell you that one good term deserves the next. And if God spare my life for me to see you be the Prime Minister, I can't wait for us, be boasting people in Sandy Point, to have our own Prime Minister. Anyhow, most of the questions that I had to put before you tonight, Mr. Mills talk about it. But however, I want to elaborate on it a little while. The cemetery, I want you to take a good listening, a good time to write down what I'm about to say. We need a cemetery in Sandy Point, that in case our loved one pass away, we don't have to go to Bastille to bury them. We fed up of that now, and I think that you need to put this in place urgently. Also, you have I have an old building down there, down Pump Bay. I don't know if it's the government building. We can look at it. Down Fig Tree Pump Bay, we can look at it. And we could make it a center, put in some laptops or some computers that way children can go in the afternoon and they can use it to upgrade their education some more. However, my sister Janice spoke about the road right here on my right-hand side, going across back behind the project there. I think for years now we have been talking about it. It needs some lighting urgently, because most of us who was coming from Clevy Hill tonight, I showed a walk across the road there and it was very dark. Like myself, I walk across here and it was very dark and it needs to be fixed. Sometimes if we have a traffic accident on Montidal, vehicle do mobilize and go to the back of the same road. So I think that it's something good she suggests to you that we need to get it fixed. And Mr. Richards, last but least, I love this tonight. I love the town hall meeting. And I hope this will not be the last town hall meeting for this year, I think that it will be quite fitting for you to hear from your people that put you right there every 3 months. I think that it will be good if you have a town hall meeting every 3 months. Thank you.
Thank you, Marsha. This is a young lady. Yes, come please.
Good night to everyone. I address the chair and the head table and the Honorable Sean K. Richards. I'm not from this party. I came from Anguilla, but since I've been here, I've been observing the government and the parties. Well, I came from a labor background because of my parents, but then I migrated overseas. Then I became a member of another party overseas. But what I'm saying is that now I'm back. I've been looking at the parties. I've been going to Parliament. Mr. Richard knows that. I never miss a Parliament. I'm there at every Parliament sitting. And I'm very proud tonight. I would like to say congratulations, and of which I stated on my Facebook to the government of St. Kitts Nevis on the attainment of the incumbent returning to office. I said publicly, and to Mr. Richards, I'm very happy for you. I have a lot of respect for you, and I look forward to see in the near future that you carry out these prospects that you've named tonight, and especially the urban development. I think we need a lot of urban development in this Sandy Point. I'm looking at it carefully, especially when you name about the places that the shopping center. And it's not every time the government can take on these projects. I think that the public sector can take on these projects as well with governmental assistance. And so tonight, I'm very happy. I say cheerio, and I say blessings for your party, for your government with PAM and CCM and PLP. I have relatives in all three organizations, and of which I congratulate you very much. And I say, I wish you Godspeed and happy, hard-working 5-year term with God's blessings. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That was the last question for the night. Before I ask the minister to respond, I have 3 comments from 3 persons in the diaspora. One is asking for making a plug for housing issues for the less fortunate stalwart supporters in Sandy Point. He said a lot of them cannot afford the middle-income homes, but they want to own a home. Here is where I suggest townhouses that would meet the budget of those lower-paid individuals. Another individual is asking what was the intended use of the clubhouse at the new recreation ground, and he said he needs some clarification, please. And the last one is that this person says that the new recreation ground should be named after Andrew Weeks, the late Andrew Weeks of Crab Hill, Sandy Point. He was the first West Indies umpire from St. Kitts and Nevis. So this person said it is more than fitting that the new recreation ground be named after the late Andrew Weeks. Mr. Minister, can you respond, please?
Thank you, Chairman Mr. Brown. The questions asked by Marcia Basso. She asked about the fencing at the new recreation ground. That is still yet to be completed, and I do agree that the fencing has to be completed. So that is a project in which the ministry hopefully will be able to complete within the next 5 years. I think it's basically just the southern side of the field that the fencing has to be completed. Honestly, it's something I've spoken about since in opposition, and so I also would want to see it being done. When I was Minister of Sports, yes, I suppose I could have done it, but as I said, and I said it at I think a different occasion, it was a matter of determining what really should you do first, because you could have completed the fencing, not put in the lighting, and then while you have fencing, you can't have persons utilizing the field in the night, etc. But I recognize the fencing still has to be completed. She spoke quite passionately about finding the time to interact with persons. I think that has been spoken to a number of different times this evening, and so I will not go back to that again. Likewise, I have also been receiving suggestions from persons, and one person has suggested that we look at the kids and adult recreation park at the old recreation ground. I suppose it's similar to the suggestion made by Jarek about putting in exercise equipment, etc., which I said is an idea to be considered. Entrance to the, and someone else said the entrance to the community center right here needs paving, and so that will also be looked at amongst the list of areas that we need to look at in terms of providing a proper road. Someone also suggested the placement of government offices in Sandy Point. Again, that also I think is a good suggestion that we can look at. A strip, a boulevard in the heart of Sandy Point. Again, that suggestion has come from persons especially for the Fig Tree Pump area, and it is for private persons, I think, to really start to take up that particular initiative in terms of making the necessary applications to sustainable development and starting to build those sort of establishments in the Fig Tree area. And I would want to also encourage persons from Sandy Point, when you have such businesses here in Sandy Point, that they give support to those businesses. The person also suggested commercial spaces be made available at the public market. So that is also a consideration for urban development. Committees in the Sandy Point community. I recall after the last election in 2015, that very same suggestion came from persons that there ought to be committees for different aspects of the Sandy Point community. Just as I supported it then, I am still very much supportive of it. But it appears as though persons wanted me to sit down and put the committees in place. Just as we have run a successful campaign, we have had committees to deal with this town hall meeting, we have had committees to deal with the church service on Sunday, we have other committees to deal with other areas, we have had committees to deal with the scholarship fund that Mr. Hodge referred to. All it takes is really for persons to come together and to form the necessary committees. Whatever support is needed from me, I am more than willing to provide the support. But I think when persons come forward also, they need to be dedicated to the effort. Be dedicated and committed to the effort, so that you don't have the committees functioning for 2-3 months, and then after that, you don't hear anything from the particular committees. I am only one person. I can't do everything myself. And I continue to ask persons for help in getting certain things done. And so I'm making the appeal again tonight. Some persons have suggested it, and maybe some of those persons can lead the effort in terms of putting some of these committees together. The constituency committee, there's supposed to be a meeting on the, not Monday coming, the following Monday. What date is that? The 13th? I think there's a meeting on the 13th of July to look at the constituency committee. And that is the PAM constituency committee, the chairperson and the other officers. So I'm saying to persons who have an interest in serving at that level, there is a meeting scheduled on the 13th, and you are welcome to attend the meeting. It will be held at the constituency office. I agree that the borders are porous, and we need to do a better job in terms of monitoring the borders. I know at one point in time consideration was given to ordering some sort of devices that are supposed to be able to pick up vessels as they traverse the waters here in St. Kitts and Nevis. Those would have been placed in different areas around the island, because the issue is not one that is unique to Sandy Point. But as we know, we had some Haitians who came in the Keys area recently, and we hear of different reports, persons coming in Date Bay and elsewhere along the borders. Boundaries, electoral reform, good governance agenda. We could have a debate about that. Some aspects of it, I'll admit I agree with. There are other aspects I would say I don't agree with. Because the good governance agenda, yes, you had some pieces of legislation being passed in terms of the good governance agenda. In terms of maybe all of the pieces of legislation that some persons would have liked to see, admittedly, all of those pieces of legislation were not put in place. I can say that since we have had the first 2 cabinet meetings, we have discussed boundaries, we have discussed electoral reform, and we have discussed other aspects of the good governance agenda. So that hopefully we will see more of it during the second term in government. But during the first term, yes, we had some of it, but there are also some other issues which I think the government would have given priority to. National security and the crime that was taking place in the Federation, for example. Every single poll which was taken, not only leading up to the elections of 2015, but even before then, had indicated that crime had been the #1 concern of persons in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. And so the government had to address those particular matters first and foremost. Because you could put a good governance agenda and go to Parliament and do all of those things, but at the end of the day, you have young people killing young persons. That agenda would not have done anything to satisfy that particular concern. So we have had some of it, and we intend to implement even more of the good governance agenda during the second term in office. And there are some other things that we had attempted to do, but because of different situations, we were not able to advance those. For example, term limits for Prime Minister, that was part of the good governance agenda, and persons would be aware that when we went to Parliament with it, the opposition members did not support it, and you needed two-thirds of the members of Parliament giving support in order for that particular piece of legislation to pass. I do believe that we now have the necessary votes in Parliament, and so hopefully persons would see that coming back before the Parliament. Do not use the constituency office to meet with persons, because some persons may not be comfortable coming there, and I take that suggestion fully on board. I suppose there's some meetings will be at the constituency office. Those who are comfortable coming there will come. I have used my offices, the government offices, to accommodate persons for meetings, and so those who feel more comfortable coming there, those persons can come there. Even my home I have opened to persons, because persons can indicate that when they tell me they want to see me and I'm at home, I tell them I'm home, come, and I open my door, and everybody come in. They see what I have in my house from what I don't have in my house. And that is a fact. So Whether it is that other buildings, perhaps in Sandy Point, can be utilized for some of those meetings, yes, some of those buildings can be utilized for some of those particular meetings. But again, it also depends on the nature of the meeting, because if it's, let's say, a political type of meeting, then I would expect to use the constituency office. I can't use a government office for those types of meetings. One-on-one consultations, traditionally we have utilized the constituency offices for those meetings. But as I said, I take the point that you have made, some persons may not feel comfortable coming there. The area in the backway Downing Street bordering Mr. Farrier's residence, when I had my very first meeting with the Director of Public Works since becoming the Minister, that is an issue that we spoke to, and so I'm hoping that that issue will be addressed. So that has already been placed on the agenda at the Ministry. The Fisheries Building in Pump Bay and what can be done with it, Marcia suggested a computer center, and again, that is a suggestion that will be taken on board. The only thing that kind of crossed my mind, to be honest, is computers and CBLAS. Yeah, kind of have to be careful in regards to that. But there are things which it can be used for. The fishermen might actually tell you they want back their building and they have usage for it. But it is a building that we need to look at. The lighting on the road and the road in the back area, your sister spoke to that. That was already addressed. Townhall meeting every 3 months. I think that is a very good suggestion in terms of one every quarter. Townhouses, yes, there are plans to build townhouses in Sandy Point. There is one area already designated to build those houses, and so it is hoped that maybe later this year or early next year, the construction of those homes will begin. The person also asked about the intended usage of the clubhouse. The clubhouse is there for the different sporting organizations in Sandy Point to use. It's a matter of getting in touch with the Department of Sports and making an application to use it. As a matter of fact, I know persons have used it thus far too, because you have the children play area up there. You have persons who have requested usage of it to hold parties up in that area and to have a place for the children, etc. So it's there for the community to use. I think once you make an application to the Department of Sports, and it's a reasonable application in terms of what you want to do at the clubhouse, you will be accommodated at the clubhouse. When it was built, for example, we said, okay, you have persons up there playing tennis, they may want to take a shower prior to, they want restroom facilities to use, and so it's there for them to use. It replaced the old Domino Center, the old Domino building, and so when you enter, there's a large open area there, so if persons want to go there to play dominoes, they can go there to play dominoes. So it's basically for recreational purposes and for anyone within the community to take advantage of it. All I would say to persons is, of course, don't go and abuse the building. Leave it in the same manner that you would have met it. The recreation ground being named after Mr. Weeks, my suggestion is that we have some further meetings to look at some of these. The primary school, the recreation ground, some of the streets here in Sandy Point, some of the other buildings in Sandy Point. Let us come together and make suggestions as to the naming of those buildings. The committees that we spoke about earlier, maybe one of those committees could take responsibility for garnering the views from persons here in Sandy Point as to who we can name some of these things after. The hard court, do we want to name the hard court after somebody? As I said, the primary school. We spoke about a library. If we build a library, who do we name the library in honor of? Cindy, you want the library to be named in honor of you said? Okay. So those are all suggestions, but I will not make those decisions. Those decisions must come from consensus within the community. I think we could recall when you had the renaming of the high school, that did not go down well at all. because you had a number of persons who were against it. But the government then did not canvass the views of persons within the community in renaming the high school. That is a mistake that we must not repeat. To the lady who had been living in Anguilla, a very special thank you for your words of commendations. I indeed do appreciate them, and yes, quite often you are present in the parliament listening to the various debates. Baba, I at no point in time had any fears about the person that Labour brought as a candidate here in Sandy Point. You know, I can recall, I think it was right here at the Townhall meeting, or elsewhere, a person said to me, remove him from teaching down at the high school. And I said, and I always try to be honest with my responses. And I said to persons then, I had no intention of removing him. If he wants to be a candidate, let him come, because he will get his share of licks. And indeed, he got his share of licks, and more licks than any other candidate ever received in Sandy Point. But that is a testament to the power of people. I've had persons who said, well, he meeting the young voters, he is involved in sports, etc. And I've seen other persons who thought other persons have been involved in sports who were candidates, and at the end of it, did they prevail? No. I think essentially it is about service to the people. And I intend to continue to serve the people of Sandy Point to the best of my ability. I've taken note of the criticism that persons haven't seen me enough, but I think if it is one thing persons were not able to say, is that nothing was done in Sandy Point. Because I made sure that projects were delivered on behalf of the people of Sandy Point. And I will continue to ensure that that is done. Yesterday, while in office, I received an election petition. The Sandy Point seat is being contested. And you know, when I read it, I laughed. And I laughed for various reasons. One of the first reasons why I laughed is you had a puppy show going around Sandy Point saying to persons that I don't live in Sandy Point. I've always lived in Sandy Point and no place else in St. Kitts. But the election petition says that the puppy show lives in Boardrock. And I'm serious. The election petition says the name of the puppy show, who resides at Boardrock, St. Kitts. I didn't make it up. That is what the petition says. And that is a petition that he swore in the court. And all sorts of other things I signed the petition that just made me laugh. The main contention, they said, is that lands were given out in Sandy Point during the election period and before the election period. And according to them, that amounts to bribery. Well, I don't know if it is that because an election is announced, that the arms of government come to an end and so persons cannot get land. As far as I'm concerned, that's rubbish. Total rubbish. But that matter will go before the court and will be defended vigorously in the court. Very vigorously in the court. Persons need to accept that they got licks, take the licks, and go and come again for even more licks. That is what I will say on that matter. But we have work to continue to do here in Sandy Point, and we need to continue to do that work on behalf of all of the people of Sandy Point. COVID has brought with it a different set of challenges for the government, and so in terms of the intake of revenue for government, that of course has been affected, and so in terms of the implementation of certain projects, maybe not at the same speed, but of course things will pick up and the government will continue to look after all of the people, not just here in Sandy Point, but throughout the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Again, I say thanks to all of you for your continued support. It has been a good evening thus far. I look forward to interacting with you, whether it is at other town hall meetings or other forums here in the Sandy Point community. Today, before I came here, I journeyed to the Apostolic Faith Church, where there was a service celebrating the 91st birthday of Sister Pansy Phillip. And so again, I say happy birthday to Sister Phillip. She has been a stalwart here in the Sandy Point community. Most of us know her at the Apostolic Faith Church. The church is actually now taking the building and turning it into a home for the elderly, and that home is being named in her honor. I think it is quite a fitting dedication coming from the Apostolic Faith Church. I therefore take the opportunity once more to congratulate the church on naming that building in honor of Sister Phillip. Perhaps it sends a message to us as to one of the things that we spoke about tonight, that just as the church is doing such to honor members of the church, we too need to honor persons who have made significant contributions to the Sandy Point community. And so let us continue to get the work done to ensure that we do some of those things during the second term of office.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. Now we have come to the end of the formal session. I would like to thank the Honorable Minister for taking the time out to explain to us all the runnings and the problems that he may face, and also how he will overcome all these problems. Remember, the minister is a person just like us, and so we have to appreciate that he has a life also. And all of us has a life that we would like to live, and so we just have to appreciate what we get. And also to thank the minister in advance for advancing the cause of Sandy Point in his new role as Minister of Urban Development, Post, Utilities, etc. Now, I would like to, before I bring the person on to give the vote of thanks, to thank all of you for coming. Now, the formal session will end at the vote of thanks, but we have some refreshments and we have some other things to do after, because the technical crew, they have to pack up, they have to go far. So I call on Daria Warner to give the vote of thanks.
Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of Public Infrastructure, Utilities, Post and Urban Development, and Constituency Representative, Sean K. Richards, Chairperson, Mr. Theodore Brown, and other invited guests and fellow constituents, a pleasant good evening. I deem it a privilege to propose the vote of thanks to all those who have played a significant role in the organizing and fulfilling of this town hall meeting. First and foremost, I wish to express our deepest and profound gratitude to God the Father for allowing us to live life and to assemble in this space as we continue to follow the COVID-19 safety protocols. I also express thanks to Jacqueline Morton for her prayer offering to invoke God's blessing and guidance on the success of this meeting. For the beautifully sung rendition of the national anthem, I say thank you to Ashley Wilson for reminding us how important the lyrics of our national anthem are as we continue to advance St. Kitts and Nevis, our land of beauty where peace abounds. We are grateful to Mr. Theodore Brown, our chairman, for his welcoming remarks. I trust that he did an excellent job to make us all feel welcomed. Thanks is also expressed to Mr. Raphael Wyatt for his part in introducing our Honorable Minister and Parliamentary Representative, Sean K. Richards. I also want to thank Honorable Sean Richards and the members of the panel for conducting this town hall meeting to allow the residents of Sandy Point and the surrounding communities to announce and share their concerns and ideas as it relates to the way forward for our community. We, the people of Sandy Point, have been fortunate enough to be backed by an individual who is motivated and dedicated, and for this, I say thanks. Lastly, I wish to express thanks to everyone who is present here tonight for coming out and being part of this exercise. Thanks for the questions, concerns, and ideas that you have posed, and I trust that the responses were satisfactory. Let us continue to make Sandy Point the best community we know it can be. Thanks must also be extended to the media for live broadcast. Thanks to the listeners and participants via Facebook and Zoom in the diaspora for their attendance. I wish everyone safe journey back to their respective homes. Good night.
Now we also have to thank Daria for giving the vote of thanks. Let me thank the technical crew for coming on board to get us stream live on social media as well. Thank Mr. Ron Body, the acting director of urban development, for his presence as well. Yeah. Now we have come to the end of the formal session while the technical crew pack up and go because they have long to travel, but we have one or two house matters. Let me call Hardis to the front, please. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. There's no mic, so talk. Yeah. Huh? Yeah, the bucket force. You want to make somebody happy? I'm more happy. So, we thought that was going to fit and proper. That is lovely bucket that we see at the table. We are now going to give a presentation to somebody in your life. And I will call the minister. I'm going to pass it to the minister. Then I will short the reason and then you will turn pass down to that person this evening. I would like to call Ms. Jackie Morton for them to prayer. Come forward, Jackie. Come forward, Jackie. See, now I'm taking the kids about surprises. Surprises. So tonight, I want to pass this again to the Honorable Sean Minister. Yes, all right. Okay, let me call Cindy to the front, please. Cindy. Don't forget the church service on Sunday at 5 o'clock at the Calvary Baptist Church. The Thanksgiving service, just reminding you. Yes. Okay.
We're going to be having the cutting of the cake. And we have a beautiful young lady, right? Yeah, you want to take a picture of the cake first, please? And she's going to be cutting the cake with the Honorable Minister. And she is the one who decided that she wants to cut the cake with the Minister. So we gave her the opportunity to do so. Could you tell us your name?
Chanel Woodley.
All right, so where should be? That's Asher's daughter. Bring a plate from the back first, please. A plate. You're going to cut it from the side. You can see there. You're going to cut it from this side or the next side? Send it that side, that side.
From which side?
That side over there. Put your mother chair. All right, so a plate from the kitchen, please. All right.
So why not come around there where everybody could see?
Yeah, that's what he said.
Why make the camera people them go up there?
All right, we're just trying to start out the logistic, and just now we're going to be on our way. So where you want him to be, at the front or the back? Okay. In front there.
So you want me to turn my back to the people?
No, go on this side now. You could go on this side. Go on this side. You could go on this side.
Fellow supporters, the thing is, the minister has the challenge to cut that cake into 575 pieces. Do you know what that number represents? They can't hear you? The blowers. All right. She says she's a Pamite. The young Jones Woodley is cutting the cake with the Honorable Deputy Prime Minister. And as they cut into the cake, they're smiling, looking at the yellow roses and the yellow hat. And they're about to make the first slice. Let's give them a round of applause. 574 more slices. Could we have a fork, please? And the minister handed the cake. Oh, no fork, she's using her fingers. Enjoy it, my dear. Let's give them a round of applause. And please make sure, please make sure you get your slice. It's baked with special yellow anchor butter. Thank you, everyone. And let me remind you of the church service of Thanksgiving under the distinguished patronage of our representative, the Honorable Deputy Prime Minister, Sean K. Richards, this Sunday, 5th June at 5th June, I'm going back to election day. Oh my goodness. That was something, eh? You can't get the election out of Cindy. Yes, so 5th July at the Calvary Baptist Tabernacle. Please be seated by 4:30 p.m. Come celebrate with us and give God the Almighty all the praise and thanksgiving for bringing us thus far. Thank you so much. Enjoy the refreshment. Enjoy everything. And I hand over to Master Control. Done? We are finished. Thank you very much. Reach home safe. Continue to be blessed. Continue supporting PAM. Continue supporting unity. Blessings, everyone.